basically after this game with the Chiefs, and just a brief situation, or should I say brief synopsis on what happened. We lost, which I kind of anticipated happening. Unfortunately, I knew we're not going to win every game. That's just illogical to think that way. But in the process of doing so, I can give you guys a brief game synopsis. So first half, defense looked horrible. Flat out, we sucked. I don't know what we were doing on the field, but we sure as hell did not show it for the game. So, I mean, they put up 28 points on us in just the first half alone. They killed us. We had a couple penalties that may or may not should have not been called, but regardless, period, point blank, we look like crap on defense. Next up, and our biggest problem on defense had nothing to do with coverage or anything like that. It was poor tackling, horrible tackling. I mean, you see guys going low, you see guys throwing their bodies around, cats not trying to tackle properly, nobody wanting to wrap up, stuff like that. So that was just the big issue that we had as far as it pertains to the game. So that was our biggest problem. And pretty much the first half we got murdered. We had one touchdown, and that was just a pass to Juice, who was pretty much wide open. Y'all don't know who Juice is. For anybody watching, it's Kyle Juszczyk, but everybody calls him Juice. So that was Jimmy G to Juice, and that worked out well. But other than that, our first half was pretty much horrible football. If you follow me on Twitter, @SwiftD, you've probably seen my tweets. I was pretty pissed off. I was cursing in just about every other tweet. So either Robert Saleh went in there and told the defense something, or somebody said something. Somebody put a bug in their ear, because it was crazy. The second half comes and they just start scoring. We just start playing football. Our defense shows up. We actually look good for a change. So had we played like that the whole game, probably wouldn't have gave up all these touchdowns. We wouldn't have had all these issues. You know, we actually were holding Pat Mahomes in check fairly well. Two of those touchdowns that we gave up came on the ground to Kareem Hunt, but they were both on the 1 yard line. So it wasn't like we gave up like a ton of rushing yards or a ton of anything like that. I'll hit you guys later with something that has more stats and whatnot, but this is just a brief game synopsis. And then, like I said, follow me on Twitter @SwiftD. I just posted the game highlights there, so you can take a look at it and see what happened. Other big news, Jimmy G went down with a knee injury. We don't know what it is. Everybody is saying there's a possibility of it being an ACL. If that's true, then CJ Beathard becomes the starter. He'll come in and, we'll have to just roll with him. And what I would anticipate is him activating Nick Mullins from the practice squad to the active roster, and having him back up CJ, and probably just signing another random cat to be able to be on the practice squad, because you got to have a QB. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it's just something where, he has to be out for a couple of weeks and we can get him back. But if it is, that means we lost our starting quarterback and our starting running back in no time. We lost both. We lost a couple DBs. Jimmy Ward went down. Sherm went down. Breida was out for a second, but he came back in. He started running like the cheater that he is, so we can't knock him. The biggest issue that we were facing was, just bad defense. Our defense was sucking something off. Our offense didn't show up in the first half to save our lives. We were giving up touchdowns, so we just looked pretty horrible. But you know what? I'm not going to wait. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some stats really quick. Just let me grab my phone. As you can see, I'm going through the house. Don't mind me. Just going to grab this phone real quick, give y'all some stats. At least that way we know what really happened versus what didn't go down. So, my phone stops acting up and doing what it wants to do. Jump right into the old Faithful Bleacher Report, which is always good. One minus today is Buck didn't have any sacks. Defoe had no sacks. For 49er fans, y'all know who that is. For people who don't, that's just DeForest Buckner. So let's take a look at the stats really quick and see pretty much what happened, because we made Kansas City's defense look like they were superstars, and they're not. The defense actually isn't that good, and it's not a knock against them. They're an NFL defense, but they're not playing that great. But they did have some pretty good stats. So for Jimmy G, he was 251, He had 20 out of 30 for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. He didn't throw any interceptions. That's great, but he got sacked 4 times. Now, mind you, Kansas City's defense, if you watched my previous video, only had 2.5 sacks coming into the game. I think it was 2.5 or 2, and they got 4 today, so that's pretty bad. Matt Breida had 10 rushes for 90 yards, so it's still a 9-yard average. Alfred Morris had 14 for 67. He had that touchdown. Garoppolo, obviously, you see, he must have listened to what I said when I was talking about him being a statue in the pocket. He moved. He had 3 rushes for 23 yards, although on the last rush that he had, looks like he tried to pull a little jump cut, so to speak, and that's when he went down with that knee injury toward the end of the game. Next up, we have George Kittle. If you haven't watched the highlights, watch the highlights. Kittle was barreling through people. I mean, that's a big boy, and when he hits you hard. So that was actually good. He led the team in receptions. He was targeted 7 times, 5 catches for 79 yards. Juice had the reception for the touchdown. Keese had a reception for a touchdown. Matt Breida still had 3 extra yards out of the back, 3 catches out of the backfield for 27 yards. So he averaged 9 running and 9 catching. So, I mean, that's almost a first down every time he does something. So that's actually really good. KB, Kendrick Bourne, had 1 catch for 27 yards. Trent Taylor was 3 for 24. Nothing really out of Dante Pettis or anybody else. As far as, our defense is concerned, looks like we had 2 sacks. That was 1 from Eric Armstead and 1 from Anton Exum Jr. Exum came into the game due to the fact that we wound up losing, I believe it was Jimmy Ward, so he went down. So we just we got to fight through this. Leading tackler again, of course, Fred Warner. Guys everywhere. He tackles any and everything moving. 2 tackles for a loss. Anton Exum had that tackle for a loss as well with the forced fumble. Reuben Foster came in with 6 tackles. Akello had 5. So, we just poor tackling as far as our defense is concerned. So we got to get better at that. That's obviously, you can't tackle nobody. People are going to run all over you and do what they want. But it was those speed guys that started to get to us, from a perspective. Look at Pat Mahomes' yardage, 24 out of 38 for 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's not bad that we held him to 3 touchdowns, and it's good that we sacked him twice, but it would have been better had we been able to hold him, period. Their rushing pretty much didn't do much of anything to us. Everything was small and short. It looks like their total rushing yards here, I would say, is probably not even 100 yards. And that's looks like they had at least 5 rushers. So that's actually great, but the negative issue with that is that 2 times on the 1-yard line, Kareem Hunt just walks right on in. So we have to stop that. Travis Kelce didn't score any touchdowns, but he had a monster game, 8 catches for 114 yards. We've always had issues with tight ends. I don't understand why they don't just assign a DB to follow that tight end when we know we're facing somebody like a Travis Kelce or Jimmy Graham or anybody like that. Those guys are dynamic and they're big and they're playmakers, so we already know ahead of time they're going to be out there making plays. So it's like running a zone scheme on a tight end, it doesn't make sense. You leave too many pockets open for them to sit in and catch balls. It doesn't work. It was a bad thing. Justin Houston had 2 sacks. This guy Bailey had a sack, and then D Ford had a sack, which, I ain't heard that name in a minute. So, as far as the stats go, from a perspective, we did fairly well. If you want to just go with the team stats in general, they got us in passing yards, obviously, but not by much more. We killed them in rushing. We actually beat them out by 101. So they only had 77 total yards rushing. But we had a lot of penalties. We had 14 penalties for 147 yards. We can't do that and win games. It just doesn't make sense because you're putting yourself in a hole. You continually are giving up free yardage to everybody, and they're just going to walk all over you. It's too easy, making the field shorter for them every time you give them a free penalty. Some of the penalties may or may not have been just, but they were called nonetheless, so we have to work with it and deal with it. No team had any turnovers, but once again, Kansas City had 4 sacks. We only had 2. We just third down efficiency, 2 out of 9. That's not going to cut it. You can't go nowhere doing 2 out of 9 on third down efficiency. So overall, we tried our best to mount a comeback in the game. We did have a touchdown that would have brought us within a couple of points late in the game, but that was negated by what? A penalty. So, once again, back at square one. It's a little frustrating that we had this loss, but it's better that we only lost, 38-27. I can say that is definitely, something, a hard pill to swallow, but it's easier pill to swallow than us getting the crap kicked out of us. So, next up, next Sunday we got to go ahead and we got to go to LA. We'll be in California, so that's not a negative thing, but we got to go to LA and play the Chargers, and see what we can do with them. We got to be able to stop their guys. Luckily, we don't have to worry about a tight end because, it's Antonio Gates, and, he's a little bit older, a little bit slower, so that'll be a little bit easier task, but we still have that defense to worry about. Joey Bosa hasn't been playing as of late because he's had a foot injury, but magically it'd be a situation where he comes in, and next thing you know, he's running all over the place and, sacking whoever the quarterback is. We're banking on the fact that Jimmy's okay, but right now it looks like probably we're going to have to wind up starting with C.J. Beathard. Like I said, we'll most likely activate Nick Mullins from the practice squad, sign just some regular guy. We'll probably get one of these guys out here to just, take that spot for the time being, and just roll with C.J. and Nick Mullins. Because Nick Mullins didn't look too bad in the preseason. So we're hoping that, nothing is wrong with Jimmy and that his ACL isn't torn, and that he is able to come back and play for us. I doubt next week he would be able to play, so I'm going to go with the fact that CJ will start. But CJ knows the offense. He's been studying. I'm pretty sure he's been right there. He's ready. So it's better for us just to get him rolling now and see what we can do. We are currently 1-2, so that's a little frustrating and it sucks. But I can say that we did fight that game. Second half came out and we looked like a football team. We looked like we were doing something. For us to go ahead and score 27 points again, that's great. That shows that we're not out there and we can't, we're not scoring at all and we're not throwing touchdowns. It's just certain times we don't, get the luck of the draw with the penalties or certain things like that. But that's just a brief synopsis of what happened in the game. Unfortunately, we lost, but this was an anticipated loss. Kansas City is a real dynamic offense. And Pat Mahomes does what he does every week. He seems to be just unstoppable. So hopefully, somebody will figure him out. Maybe we'll see some game tape. But banking on the rest of the teams, in our division, kind of taking that L. Right now, we got the Cowboys playing the Seahawks. Hopefully that they can go ahead and take care of them. We got the Cardinals. They are on Fox right now if you live in Arizona. They're playing right now, so hopefully we can see what we got going on with them. I'm going to double check some scores really quick because we're 1-2 right now. And looks like the Seahawks are up on the Cowboys at the half, 17-3, so they'll wind up catching up to us as far as if they pull off that W. Let's see, Rams are doing what they normally do. They're beating up on the Chargers 28-13, so, that's definitely it. And where are the Cardinals? Looking, Cards, where the heck did the Cards go? Let me look at those Redbirds. And the Cards are up on the Bears 14-3. So, to my boy Josh, I need you to tell your Bears to get up on this shit so we can get them, we can keep the Cards in the hole. But they're up right now, so all three teams that are fighting right now and games are in progress. Like I said, Rams up 28-13 on Chargers, Seahawks up 17-3 on the Cowboys, and Cardinals up 14-3 on the Bears. Till next time, I'll see you guys later. I'll be back with another report as far as what's going on with Jimmy G and how we're going to look going forward. We should be perfectly fine as far as everything, and I'll give you guys some injury updates and some reports on that. Until then, peace, be easy, blessings to you, go Niners, and the season ain't over yet, man. We got one more game. If we can split this, and be at least 2-2 and beat these Chargers, that's still 500. Peace out, stay up, be easy.